I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who finds out his wife is cheating. My name is Jake, and I used to believe that my marriage to Emily was strong, built on love, trust, and our shared dreams. We had been together for over 7 years, and we had a 4-year-old son named Noah. Life seemed perfect on the surface, but there were signs I ignored. At first, it started with little things. Emily became distant, spending more time on her phone and less time engaged with me or our son. She used to love family movie nights, but lately she'd call them too boring, opting instead to go out with friends. I brushed it off as her trying to maintain her independence after becoming a mom, but deep down, I felt a nagging sense of unease. One night after putting Noah to bed, I came downstairs to find Emily on the couch, her phone glowing in the dark. She quickly hid it when she saw me, which I thought was odd. "Just scrolling through social media," she said, with that cheeky smile that always melted my heart. But the smile didn't reach her eyes, it was a quick response, almost rehearsed, and I felt a flicker of doubt. Over the next few weeks, her excuses piled up. "I'm going to dinner with the girls," or "I have a late meeting at work." Although she was a stay-at-home mom, she had started taking on freelance work, which I believed was noble. But as she worked late nights and weekends, I began to wonder if the late nights were really about work at all. The real turning point came one Saturday afternoon. I decided to take Noah to the park, a routine we cherished. As we played, I noticed a familiar car parked nearby. It was an old friend of Emily's, Mark. I waved, but he seemed to avoid my gaze. I shrugged it off, thinking he was just distracted. But as I glanced over at the park bench, my heart sank. There was Emily laughing, her body leaning closer to Mark, a familiar intimacy I hadn't seen in years. I felt sick. My stomach twisted and I couldn't breathe. I told Noah we were heading home, my mind racing. Was I overreacting? Was it really just a friendly catch-up? But the image of her smiling, so carefree next to him, ignited a fire inside me. After that, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I became more observant, even combing through Emily's things when she wasn't around. I found bits of evidence, receipts for dinners I hadn't been invited to, and messages on her phone that were suspiciously unresponsive. One night I found a text from Mark, asking if she could join him for drinks just like old times. Finally, I made the decision to confront her. I had to know the truth. The tension was palpable as I sat her down. "Emily, we need to talk," I started, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and dread. Her face paled, and for a moment I thought I saw fear in her eyes. "What about?" she asked, feigning innocence. I laid it all out. The car at the park, the messages, the distance I felt growing between us. It was like watching a wall come up around her. She started to get defensive, claiming I was being paranoid and controlling. "Jake, you're being ridiculous. I swear there's nothing going on. We're just friends," she insisted, but the desperation in her voice told a different story. I pressed her harder, and her explanation twisted into a web of lies that left me feeling dizzy. That confrontation was the beginning of my emotional turmoil. The shock of her betrayal hit me like a freight train. I felt anger boiling beneath the surface, but it was quickly replaced by a deep sorrow that settled in my chest. How could she do this to me? To Noah, the boy who was her whole world just moments before. Days turned into an emotional roller coaster. I found myself oscillating between rage and despair, questioning every moment we had shared. I realized our entire life together could be nothing but a facade. The betrayal gnawed at me, and the laughter we once shared now felt hollow. How do you even process something like this? I started to feel the weight of our son on my shoulders. I was determined not to let him suffer the consequences of her mistakes. But with every lie she told me, I felt my resolve beginning to crumble. As I sat alone late one night, poring over the evidence I had collected, a feeling of clarity began to form. I knew I had to make a decision, not just for me, but for Noah too. The question was, what path would I take? To be continued. The days that followed the confrontation with Emily felt like I was walking through a haze. I barely slept, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal, lies, and the life I thought we had built together. I spent every moment analyzing each tiny detail of our relationship, trying to find the pieces that made sense. Were we really happy, or was it all a facade? One evening, I decided to reach out to a friend for support. Tim and I had been buddies since college, and I needed someone to talk to who could provide a different perspective. I met him at a local bar, hoping that a couple of drinks would help ease my mind. As we sat down, I could see the concern in his eyes as I explained the situation. "Man, I don't know what to say. That's heavy," Tim replied, shaking his head. "Have you thought about what you want to do?" "I don't know yet," I admitted, my voice shaky. "I just keep thinking about Noah. He deserves a stable home, but I can't ignore what she's done." "Do you think it's just that guy?" Tim asked, tipping his beer towards me. "Do you think she's been seeing others?" That question hung in the air between us, and I felt my stomach twist again. It was too painful to consider. I had already been reeling from the idea of Emily and Mark, but if she was involved with others too, what next? Would I ever be able to trust her again? I decided I needed some concrete proof, so over the next few days I became more vigilant. I worked from home under the guise of a project, giving me ample time to watch her interactions and track her movements. I noticed her subtle changes in behavior, a new lipstick shade she claimed was just a fun pick-me-up, and a tighter dress that accentuated her figure much more than usual. One afternoon, I received the bombshell that would change everything. I had been trying to shake the feeling that something was going to hit me like a brick wall, and boy, did it. I received a call from my doctor's office, informing me that the results of the DNA test I had requested for Noah were in. I had done it out of a mix of paranoia and concern for our son's future. "Jake, your results indicate that you are not Noah's biological father," the nurse said, her voice calm yet clinical. I felt the world tilt on its axis. "What do you mean?" I stammered, gripping the phone tighter. "That can't be right." "Unfortunately, the results are conclusive," she replied. "You will need to discuss this with your physician for further assistance." I hung up, my heart racing. My mind couldn't comprehend what this meant. Had Emily cheated on me while I was working late nights and taking care of our home? Had I been raising someone else's child? The betrayal I felt from the affair paled in comparison to this new revelation. Storming out of the house, I drove aimlessly for a while, letting my anger and confusion bubble to the surface. I couldn't go home. It felt like a prison. I needed answers, and I needed them now. When I returned home, Emily was in the kitchen, her back turned to me as she stirred something on the stove. "Hey babe," she called out, "dinner is almost ready." "Emily, we need to talk," I said, my voice low and steady, betraying none of the turmoil inside. She turned to face me, and I could see she was taken aback by my tone. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath, forcing myself to keep calm. "I just got the results from the DNA test." Her expression shifted to one of confusion and then to dread. "What are you talking about?" "I'm not Noah's father," I said coldly, watching her face pale as the words sunk in. "What? That's impossible," she stammered. "You must have made a mistake." "No mistake, Emily, it's conclusive. I want to know why." Her eyes darted around the room as if searching for an escape. "It's not what you think, Jake. I can explain." "Then explain," I shouted, the frustration welling up inside me. "You've lied to me, betrayed me. What else is there?" Tears filled her eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy, but it quickly vanished. "I didn't want you to know. You were so excited to be a dad. I thought it would ruin everything." "Ruining everything? You already did that," I yelled, my voice cracking with emotion. "Who is he? Is it Mark? Did you sleep with him?" "I swear it was a one-time thing. I was lonely." "You were always busy," she admitted, her voice rising in urgency. "I never meant for it to go this far. I thought that maybe I could keep it hidden." Anger, sadness, and disbelief crashed together in my mind. How could she think keeping that from me was an option? Everything I believed about our love was shattered. As Emily continued to blubber out half-hearted excuses, I realized I had a decision to make. I couldn't raise a child that wasn't mine. He deserved more than that, and I deserved the truth. I felt a new sense of clarity settle over me. The betrayal was a heartbreak, but the only way to move forward was to take control of the situation. I wouldn't live in the shadows of her lies any longer. To be continued. In the aftermath of that explosive confrontation, I felt like I was living in a nightmare. I couldn't shake the weight of Emily's words from my mind. As much as I wanted to deny it, there was no escaping the truth. I was not Noah's biological father. This revelation turned my world upside down, and I realized I needed to figure out what to do next. For days, I barely interacted with Emily. The air between us was thick with tension, and I mostly avoided her. I found myself slipping into a routine that revolved around Noah, taking him to daycare, playing with him at the park, and reading him bedtime stories. I felt a connection to him that I didn't want to sever, but at the same time, I was overwhelmed with grief and distrust toward Emily. The problem was that I didn't know how to navigate these conflicting emotions. I loved Noah, but the thought of raising someone else's child while being deceived by the person I trusted most was unbearable. I felt trapped in a situation where every interaction with Emily felt tainted by her betrayal. After a week of silence, I decided it was time to confront her again. I needed more answers, clarity, and a plan, so we sat across from each other at the kitchen table, both of us avoiding eye contact. I could feel the weight of unspoken words pressing down on us. "Emily," I started, my voice measured. "I need you to be honest with me. What really happened with Mark? How long has this been going on?" She fidgeted in her chair and glanced down at her hands. "It was just a fling, Jake. It didn't mean anything. I felt so lonely and Mark was there and I got caught up in it." "Caught up? You cheated on me." I shot back, my anger flaring again. "And now you're telling me it was just a fling? This isn't just a small mistake. You shattered my trust. Who knows if you've done this before?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I swear I didn't mean to hurt you. I just thought you were so busy with work and Noah that you didn't want me anymore. I thought I could fix it, but it just made everything worse." My heart ached for her pain, but I couldn't allow myself to get lost in it. "You can't fix this. Not after what you've done." "I feel like I don't know you anymore," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. She looked defiant for a moment, then crumbled. "I know I've made mistakes, but I love you. I love Noah. I didn't want this to happen. I thought we could get through it." "Love, is that what you call this? You put your needs before our family. You betrayed my trust." I felt my throat tighten with emotion. "I can't just sweep this under the rug and pretend like it didn't happen. What do we do now? Please, Jake. I want to work things out. We can go to counseling. I'll do anything." She pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. Counseling. It felt like a hopeful yet futile suggestion. I couldn't imagine going back to that bubble of happiness we once had, not with this gnawing betrayal lurking beneath the surface. "I need time to think," I said finally, my decision weighing heavily on me. As days passed, I threw myself into work and spent as much time with Noah as I could. He was blissfully unaware of the chaos unfolding around him, and I was grateful for that. I took him to the park where we played catch, and I watched him giggle as he ran around, his laughter echoing in my ears. It was those moments that made me question everything. How could I abandon him for something that wasn't his fault? But every evening when I returned home, a sense of dread filled me. I could see Emily trying to mend the rift between us, offering comfort, cooking meals, even working on a family portrait. But every gesture felt like a hollow attempt to patch up the chaos she created. The trust was gone, and each smile felt forced. One night I reached out to Tim again. I needed a fresh perspective, someone to help me sort through my feelings. We met at a coffee shop, and he could tell right away that I was still struggling. "Dude, you look exhausted," he said, concern etched on his face. "Have you thought about what you want to do?" "I don't know, man. I love Noah, but I can't stay with Emily after everything. How do I even begin to untangle this mess?" "Have you thought about getting a lawyer?" he asked carefully. "If you're considering separation, you should know your rights." His words hung in the air. I hadn't thought about that yet. "A lawyer? You think it's come to that?" "Honestly, if you feel like you can't trust her anymore, you have to think about what's best for you and Noah," he said. "You deserve to be happy too." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words. Maybe it was time to take the first steps toward a new life, however daunting that may be. I had always envisioned a future filled with love and laughter, but now I had to consider a reality I never imagined, one without Emily. That night I lay awake, contemplating my next move. I knew I needed to be strong, not just for myself but for Noah. I couldn't allow Emily's choices to dictate my happiness. I would seek legal advice, start thinking about what separation would look like, and figure out how to navigate co-parenting with a woman who had broken our family apart. As the dawn broke, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the storm. I would not be defeated, and I would protect Noah at all costs. The journey ahead would be challenging, but I was ready to take the first step toward reclaiming my life. To be continued, with each passing day, the reality of my situation became clearer. I could no longer pretend that everything was fine, nor could I ignore the deep-rooted issues that Emily and I faced. It was time to take action. I took Tim's advice and contacted a lawyer to discuss my options. The consultation was nerve-wracking, but I needed to know my rights when it came to Noah and the possibility of separation. The attorney, a sharp woman named Jessica, listened attentively as I laid out the facts of my situation. She took notes, her expression serious as I spoke of Emily's infidelity and the shocking news about Noah's paternity. "Jake, the first thing I want to say is that you are not alone in this," she reassured me. "Many men find themselves in similar situations, and there are ways to protect your interests and your relationship with Noah." I felt a mix of relief and dread as she detailed the steps I might have to take: filing for custody, establishing a formal separation agreement, and possibly considering co-parenting arrangements. "Regardless of whether you choose to file, you have rights as a parent," she explained. "We can work on ensuring you maintain a meaningful relationship with Noah." Hearing her talk about my rights as a father reignited a flicker of determination within me. I wanted to be the best father I could be for Noah, no matter what happened with Emily. I left the office feeling empowered, realizing that I had the ability to shape my own future. That evening I met with Emily again. I knew this conversation would be difficult, but I needed to set the tone for what was to come. "Emily, we need to talk about our future," I said, my voice steady but firm. "What do you mean?" she asked, feigning ignorance. I could see the tension in her posture as she leaned against the kitchen counter. "I spoke with a lawyer today," I said, watching her reaction closely. "I need to discuss custody arrangements for Noah." Her eyes widened, and for a moment I thought I saw panic. "Jake, you can't be serious. We can work this out. I can fix this." "Fix?" "But Emily, your lies, the trust you shattered. This isn't about fixing things anymore. It's about what's best for Noah," I replied, my heart racing. "At this point, I have to put him first. Please don't do this. I love Noah. I love you," she pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I made a mistake, but I'm willing to work on our marriage. We can go to counseling. I swear I'll do better." "I appreciate that you want to work on it, but I can't overlook what you've done," I responded. "This isn't just about our relationship anymore. I need to protect Noah, and I can't do that while living a lie." I watched as the realization sunk in. She seemed to shrink, her defiance melting away into a desperate vulnerability. "You'll take him away from me, won't you?" she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not about taking him away. I just want to ensure he has stability," I said, trying to remain calm. "If we can't have a healthy co-parenting relationship, then we need to figure out how to make this work for him." Emily's face twisted with anger and despair. "You're going to ruin everything. You'll destroy our family." I shook my head, feeling the weight of my decision heavy on my shoulders. "You did that, Emily. I can't keep pretending that my life hasn't changed because of your choices. I have to think of Noah's future, and I can't do that with you continuing to deceive me." The conversation ended there, and we didn't speak much after that. The tension hung thick in the air, and I could feel the emotional chasm growing between us. I felt like I was finally standing up for myself, but it hurt to see Emily in so much pain. Yet, I reminded myself that this wasn't about her anymore. It was about protecting Noah and finding a way to build a new life for us both. Over the next few weeks, I continued to meet with Jessica to work on the legal aspects of my situation. Each meeting made me feel more prepared to face the challenges ahead. I researched co-parenting strategies, read books about navigating breakups, and began to mentally prepare myself for the changes that lay ahead. Meanwhile, Emily tried to mend fences in her own way, but it felt increasingly forced. She would cook meals and attempt to engage in family activities, but the undercurrent of tension was always there. I could see her trying to manipulate the narratives, making me feel guilty for wanting to leave, but I steeled myself against her attempts. One weekend, I took Noah to a nearby amusement park to celebrate his 5th birthday. It was a day filled with laughter and smiles, a brief escape from the chaos at home. Watching him enjoy the rides, his face lighting up with unfiltered joy, reminded me of why I was fighting so hard. A photo snapped of Noah grinning ear to ear became a symbol of my resolve. As the sun set on his birthday, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I was determined to be the kind of father Noah needed, even if that meant navigating a tough road with Emily. I vowed to stay focused on what truly mattered, Noah's happiness and well-being. But deep down, I knew that a confrontation was inevitable. With each passing day, the reality of separation loomed closer. I had to prepare myself for the emotional fallout that would follow, but I also knew that staying in a toxic situation would only hurt us both in the long run. That night, as I tucked Noah into bed, I felt a surge of love for him. "I'll always be here for you, buddy," I whispered, kissing his forehead. I was ready to face whatever challenges awaited us for his sake and my own. To be continued. In the weeks following Noah's birthday, life at home felt increasingly strained. I stuck to my routine: work, spending time with Noah, and attending meetings with Jessica to hammer out the details of my separation from Emily. Each day became a battle of emotions, where I would oscillate between determination and lingering sadness over the family I thought we were. Emily's behavior shifted as well. One moment, she would try to engage me in conversations about our relationship, asking me to reconsider a commitment to counseling and the possibility of rebuilding our trust. The next, she would lash out, hurt and defensive, as if she could not bear the thought of losing me and her perceived ideal of our family. One evening, while Noah was at a sleepover with my parents, I found myself sitting across from Emily again, caught in an uneasy silence. "Jake," she began tentatively, breaking the stillness. "Can we just talk about what's happening? I know I messed up, but I'm trying to be better. Can't we find a way to work through this?" I leaned back in my chair, bracing myself for the wave of emotions I knew would follow. "Emily, I don't know if we can. You've betrayed my trust in ways that are too deep for me to overlook. I'm not saying we can't co-parent, but everything we built feels broken." "But we have a son together, we can't just throw that away," she exclaimed, her voice rising. "I love you and I love Noah, please just give it a chance." I felt my heart ache at her desperation. "This isn't just about love, Emily. It's about honesty and respect. I can't have a partner who lies to me. I need to protect Noah from this chaos." Her anger flared and she stood up abruptly. "You don't get to act like you're the only one hurt here. I'm the one who has to live with this too." I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm amid the storm. "I know you're hurting, but I can't keep living this lie. I've talked to Jessica and I'm starting the paperwork for separation. I want to do this the right way for Noah's sake." Her shoulders slumped as the reality of my words sunk in. "You're really going to do this?" she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You're going to take him away from me?" I felt a knot form in my stomach. "I'm not taking him away, Emily. I just want to ensure that he has a stable environment. We can work out a co-parenting arrangement, but I need to know that you can be honest moving forward." "I need you, Jake," she cried out, shaking her head as if she could will me to change my mind. "I can't lose you both. I swear I'll do anything." "Anything," I echoed, feeling my frustration boil over. "Anything doesn't erase the damage you've done. You need to understand that." As she turned away from me, I felt a mixture of sadness and resolve. This was the end of our marriage, but it didn't mean the end of our responsibilities as parents. I would need to navigate this carefully, and I was determined to figure it out for Noah. Days passed, and I started preparing myself for the legal process ahead. I set up mediation sessions to discuss custody arrangements, focusing on how we would share time with Noah. The idea of formalizing our separation felt surreal yet necessary. As the mediation approached, I felt a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. I wanted to ensure that Noah remained a priority in our lives, even if that meant establishing boundaries with Emily. The thought of negotiating the terms of our co-parenting felt daunting, yet I knew it was essential for all of us. The day of mediation arrived, and I could feel the tension in the air as Emily and I sat in the conference room, divided by a table. The mediator, an experienced professional named Sarah, guided us through the process. She began by discussing our goals for co-parenting, encouraging us to focus on Noah's needs. I started to share my vision for a shared schedule, highlighting the importance of consistency and stability for Noah. I want him to feel secure and loved, regardless of the changes. In our family dynamic, I stated, hoping to steer the conversation in a positive direction. Emily listened quietly at first, but as the conversation progressed, I saw her defenses start to rise. But I want him with me more than just the weekends. She interjected, her voice tight with emotion. He needs his mother. Of course he does, I replied, maintaining my composure. But he also needs to have time with his father, and I want to ensure we're both actively involved in his life. We need to be partners in this, Emily. The discussions continued, and I felt optimistic that we could reach an agreement that worked for Noah. But as time went on, I noticed the anger bubbling beneath Emily's surface. It became clear she wasn't ready to let go of the life we once had together. In a moment of frustration, she snapped, "You think you can just take him away from me? I'll fight you for him, Jake." I felt my heart drop. This isn't about taking him away, Emily. This is about what's best for our son. You need to understand that. As the mediation session wrapped up, I could feel the weight of what lay ahead. We reached a tentative agreement on a co-parenting schedule, but it was clear that Emily wasn't ready to accept the reality of our situation. As I drove home that night, I felt a swirl of conflicting emotions. I wanted to be hopeful about our plan to co-parent, but I also knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. Noah was my beacon of light, and I needed to stay focused on what truly mattered. I was determined to navigate this new chapter of my life with grace and strength, even if it meant facing the tumultuous aftermath of Emily's betrayal. I was ready for the next step, and I would do whatever it took to protect my son. To be continued. The weeks following the mediation were a whirlwind of adjustments, new routines, new challenges, and a constant underlying tension between Emily and me. I felt a sense of relief after finalizing the co-parenting schedule, but I also knew that it was only the beginning of navigating this unfamiliar territory. Emily was still in denial about the situation. She often reached out, trying to entice me back into the old patterns of our relationship, insisting that our family could be whole again if we just worked on things. "We can fix this, Jake. Just give it time," she would say, her voice tinged with desperation and hope. I had to maintain my resolve, understanding that giving in would only complicate my intentions of establishing a healthy co-parenting relationship. I was determined to be a good father to Noah and ensure he felt loved and secure, regardless of Emily's emotional turmoil. One day, while picking Noah up from daycare, I overheard a conversation between two mothers discussing the importance of stability for their children amid divorce. "It's tough, but I always remind myself that it's not just about us anymore," one mother said. "It's about making sure they have what they need to thrive, regardless of the situation." Those words struck a chord with me. I realized that my focus had to remain solely on Noah. I needed to build a foundation for his emotional well-being, and that meant setting clear boundaries with Emily. A few days later, we had a scheduled meeting to discuss the ongoing co-parenting plan and to address any concerns that might arise from our initial agreement. I could feel the tension building as Emily arrived, her expression guarded and defensive. "Thanks for meeting," I said, trying to set a positive tone as we sat down. "Yeah, well, I have things to say too," she replied, crossing her arms. "I need more time with Noah. I just can't accept the weekend arrangement anymore." "Emily, we agreed during mediation that this was best for him," I reminded her gently. "He needs a routine, and we both need to be consistent in our approach. It's about what's best for Noah, not what either of us wants. But I miss him. It's not fair that you get to have him all weekend while I'm left alone," she exclaimed. "Then let's make the most of the time we have together during the week," I suggested, trying to negotiate a more balanced arrangement for both of us. "We can plan activities that allow us to share quality time with him." The conversation spiraled into another argument, filled with accusations and emotions. But this time, I stood my ground, refusing to be swayed by her pleas for sympathy. I reminded her that We both had our roles to play as parents, and that meant respecting the time we had with Noah. As the weeks turned into months, I slowly began to adjust to the new normal. I set aside specific days for family outings with Noah, and those moments became our sanctuary, free from the chaos of our previous life. We explored parks, went to the zoo, and started a tradition of Friday movie nights at home, complete with popcorn and ice cream. I found joy in the little things: Noah's laughter, his curiosity about the world around him, and the moments of connection we shared. I wanted to be his source of stability, a constant in his life, while navigating the complexities of co-parenting with Emily. Despite the challenges, I felt a sense of purpose. I was learning how to be a single parent, and each day I grew more confident in my ability to handle whatever came my way. I realized that I could still be a great father even if things didn't go as planned. Emily slowly began to adjust as well. As she started to accept the reality of our separation, I noticed moments of clarity in her interactions. While she still struggled with the loss of our relationship, she would occasionally express genuine gratitude for how well Noah was doing. "He seems happy, Jake. I know it's hard for both of us, but I'll always want what's best for him," she said one evening when we were discussing a recent outing we had shared with him. The acknowledgement felt like a small victory. It was the first time I sensed a shift in her perspective, recognizing that our focus needed to remain on Noah rather than our past. As the months rolled on, I began to feel a sense of healing, a realization that I could create a new life for myself, one where I didn't have to hold on to the shadows of betrayal and heartbreak. I forged a new identity as a devoted father, embracing the challenges and joys that came with it. In time, I started to consider what my future might look like beyond the confines of my marriage to Emily. I made new friends, began new hobbies, and even entertained the possibility of dating again. But I took it slow, ensuring that the focus remained on Noah and our evolving relationship as a family. Looking back on the journey, I learned a valuable lesson about resilience. Life doesn't always go as planned, and we can't control the choices of others, but we can control our reactions, our growth, and our commitment to the people we love. As I tucked Noah into bed one night, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "You're my best buddy, you know that," I said, smiling down at him. "I know, Daddy," he replied, grinning widely. "I'll always be here for you no matter what," I assured him, feeling my heart swell with love. And with that, I closed the door behind me, ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that I had the strength to face it all head on. The future was uncertain, but one thing was crystal clear: I would fight for my son and ensure he had all the love and support he needed to thrive.